About a month ago, my best friend made a confession. Since then, I've gone completely no contact with her. Blocked her number, unfollowed on everything, changed my morning coffee shop route so I wouldn't run into her. No one in our circle knows why. Before we begin, tell us in the comments from which city are you watching? And at the end, do not forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Her boyfriend sends me texts every other day. Long ones. The kind that start with, "I don't know what happened between you two, but..." Her sister called me twice last week. I let both calls go to voicemail. Our mutual friends have started group chats without me, and I can feel the weight of their speculation even through the silence. I haven't said much to anyone except this. We're no longer friends. I don't want any contact with her. That's it. No explanation, no elaboration. And now everyone thinks I'm the villain in this story. I truly have no one to unload this to. Not my family. They'd never understand. Not my other friends. They'd demand I explain, and I can't. So I'm unloading it here to strangers on the internet, because this has been sitting on my chest like a stone for 32 days. And I need someone, anyone, to hear it. I'm not even sure if anyone in real life would believe me if I told them anyway. Because my ex-best friend, let's call her Leah, is someone who presents herself to the world as kind, inclusive, caring, and trustworthy. She volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. She remembers everyone's birthdays. She's the first person to show up when someone needs help moving or a shoulder to cry on. Up until she made her confession, that was exactly how I viewed her too. My best friend, my person. 22 years of friendship, 22 years of sleepovers, and inside jokes, and knowing each other's coffee orders by heart. All of it gone in the space of 3 sentences. We're both 28 now, which means this story starts when we were 14. Over a decade ago. A lifetime ago, really. Back then, Leah's mom was engaged to a guy that Leah didn't like. I remember him, Tom, I think his name was. He drove a blue pickup truck and worked in construction. He was strict, I know that much. Made Leah do chores, gave her an actual bedtime even though she was 14, took away her phone when her grades slipped. Leah hated him for it. And then one day, she made a serious accusation against him, one that would change his life forever. I don't remember all the details from back then. I was 14 too, and honestly, most of that year is a blur in my memory now. I just remember fragments. Leah being pulled out of school one day and not coming back for the rest of the year, seeing her mom's car parked outside the principal's office, the way our friend group whispered about it in hushed tones at lunch, and then the detectives came. They called me into a small room at school. One of those guidance counselor offices that smells like old carpet and instant coffee. There were 2 of them, a woman with kind eyes and a notepad, and a man who stood by the door like he was guarding it. They asked me about Leah, about Tom, about the times I'd spent the night at her house. "Did you ever see anything?" the woman asked, her pen hovering over her notepad. "Did Tom ever make you uncomfortable?" "Did Leah ever say anything to you about him?" I answered honestly. I told them I'd slept over maybe half a dozen times since Leah's mom and Tom got together. That Tom seemed strict, but not cruel. That Leah complained about him the way all of us complained about our parents. Annoyed, but nothing that seemed dangerous. Nothing that seemed concerning in that way. From what I was told later, months later when Leah was back at school and we never talked about it directly, the whole thing went to trial. Tom was found guilty on serious criminal charges. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, 4 years of a man's life gone, and then we all just moved on, the way teenagers do. Leah came back to school. She went to therapy. We graduated high school, went to college, became adults. The incident became this thing we all knew about but never discussed, like a scar that had healed over but still ached when it rained. 22 years of friendship built on that foundation, and then last month, that foundation cracked open. Let me take you back to when it actually happened so you understand the full weight of what I'm carrying now. It was spring of our freshman year. Leah's mom, Christine, had been dating Tom for about 8 months. They'd gotten engaged that February. I remember because Leah showed up to school the day after the proposal and didn't say a word about it. I found out from her mom's Facebook post. That should have told me something. Leah lived with her mom in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. Her dad wasn't in the picture, hadn't been since she was 6. It had always been just Leah and Christine, and they had this tight bond that I sometimes envied. They were more like best friends than mother-daughter. And then Tom came along. Tom was traditional, I guess you'd call it. He believed in structure, family dinners at 6 o'clock sharp, homework before TV, chores every Saturday morning. He'd moved into Leah's apartment after 6 months of dating, and suddenly Leah's entire life had rules she'd never had before. I remember her complaining about it constantly. "He's not my dad," she'd say, picking at her lunch in the cafeteria. "He doesn't get to tell me what to do. He made me clean the entire bathroom yesterday because there was toothpaste in the sink. Like, it's toothpaste. It washes away. He told my mom I couldn't go to Maya's party because my biology grade was a C+, a C+. That's literally average." We all listened and sympathized the way 14-year-olds do. We hated Tom on her behalf. He became this villain character in our friend group's narrative, the evil stepdad trying to ruin Leah's life. Looking back now, he just sounds like a parent. Maybe not a perfect one, but a parent nonetheless. The accusation came in April. I wasn't there when it happened, when Leah first told her mom, I mean. But I remember the aftermath rippling through our school like a shockwave. Leah didn't come to school on a Thursday, or Friday. The following Monday, there were police cars in the parking lot, and by lunchtime, everyone knew why. The rumors started immediately, the way they do in high school. Whispered conversations that went silent when teachers walked by. Leah's name attached to serious words and serious accusations. I felt sick hearing it. Leah was my best friend. The idea that someone had hurt her like that Tom, who I'd sat across from at their dinner table, who'd driven us to the movies once, had done something so horrible, it felt like the world tilting on its axis. When the detectives interviewed me, I told them everything I knew, which I realized during that interview wasn't much. Had I ever seen Tom behave inappropriately with Leah? No. Had I ever felt uncomfortable around him? Not really. He was strict, sure, kind of gruff, but not creepy. Had Leah ever told me anything about him that seemed like a red flag? Just the normal stepdad complaints. Nothing that sounded like that. I left that interview feeling guilty, like I'd somehow failed her. Like maybe I should have seen something, noticed something, been a better friend. The trial happened that summer. I didn't go. We were 14. None of us really understood how court worked, but I heard about it through Leah's mom. Christine called my mom one evening. I listened from the top of the stairs as my mom's voice dropped to that hushed, serious tone adults use when they're discussing something terrible. "They found him guilty," my mom said after she hung up. She looked pale. Christine said Leah had to testify, said she was so brave, getting up there and telling her story in front of all those people. My mom wiped her eyes. That poor girl. 4 years. That's what Tom got. 4 years in a state correctional facility for serious criminal charges involving a minor. The day his sentencing came through, Leah's mom threw away every photo of him. Why would Leah lie about something like that? Fast forward to last month. Early December, just when the holiday decorations were going up and everything felt festive and safe. Leah texted me on a Saturday morning. "Want to do some Christmas shopping? Could use the company." We'd been doing holiday shopping together since we were 16 and got our first part-time jobs. It was tradition. We'd hit the mall, grab overpriced lattes, joke about the terrible gifts we were obligated to buy for distant relatives. This year felt the same at first. We met at the outdoor shopping center around 11. Leah was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench near the fountain, wearing a burgundy scarf I'd given her 2 birthdays ago. "Hey!" She stood up, gave me a hug. She felt thinner than I remembered. "Thanks for coming," I've been putting this off for weeks. We wandered through stores for a couple of hours. Leah seemed distracted, kept picking things up and putting them down without really looking at them. In anthropology, she spent 15 minutes staring at a display of candles before finally selecting one at random. "You okay?" I asked as we walked to the next store. "Yeah, just tired. Work's been crazy." But it wasn't work tired. I knew Leah. This was something else. We grabbed lunch around one Vietnamese place we both loved, and that's when I noticed her hands. They kept fidgeting with her napkin, tearing little strips off the edges. She barely touched her foe. "Leah." She looked up, and her eyes were red-rimmed. Had she been crying? "What's going on?" I asked gently. "Nothing, I'm fine." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's nothing." I didn't push it. Not then. After shopping, we ended up back at my apartment. I lived alone in a one-bedroom downtown, nothing fancy, but it was mine. We collapsed onto my couch with our shopping bags scattered around us, and I poured us each a glass of wine. Leah downed hers faster than I'd ever seen her drink anything. "Another?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded. We started reminiscing, the way you do when you've known someone for over 2 decades. Remember when we snuck out to that concert junior year? Remember Mr. Peterson's history class where we passed notes the entire semester? Remember when we drove to the beach at midnight and watched the sunrise? The apartment got darker as the sun set. I turned on the string lights above my bookshelf, creating this warm, soft glow. The kind of lighting that makes everything feel safe enough to say things you couldn't say in harsher light. Leah was on her 3rd glass of wine. I was nursing my 2nd. She'd gone quiet, staring at the wine in her glass, like she was reading tea leaves. "Do you ever think about freshman year?" she asked suddenly. My stomach did a weird flip. We never talked about freshman year. Not directly. "Sometimes," I said carefully. "I think about it all the time." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Every single day, actually. The apartment felt too quiet suddenly, like the air was waiting for something. Leah set down her wine glass. Her hands were shaking. "I need to tell you something," she said. "I've needed to tell someone for years, but I couldn't. I can't keep carrying this alone anymore." I waited. My heart was starting to pound for reasons I didn't understand yet. "It's about Tom," she said. And just like that, the safety of my apartment evaporated. Leah's eyes were filling with tears, but she wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her hands, twisted together in her lap like she was physically trying to hold herself together. "I need to tell you something before it kills me," she whispered. "About Tom, about what happened freshman year." My mouth went dry. "Okay." She took a shaky breath. "I lied. 2 words. Just 2 words, but they sucked all the oxygen out of the room." "What?" It came out barely audible. "I lied." Her voice cracked. 14 years ago, I lied about Tom. He didn't do anything to me. Any of it. I made it all up. There was a moment, I don't know how long, maybe a second, maybe an hour, where my brain just stopped processing. Like when a computer freezes and you can see the cursor blinking, but nothing else works. "I don't understand," I finally said. And then it all came pouring out of her. "I hated him," Leah said, tears streaming down her face now. "He was so strict and controlling, and he treated me like a child. He wasn't my father. He had no right to come into our home and start making all these rules and treating me like I was some problem that needed to be managed. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. My mom loved him. She was going to marry him, and I knew, once they got married it would be permanent. He'd always be there, always have control, and I'd just have to deal with it until I was 18. Her hands were shaking so badly now that she had to clasp them together to keep them still. I thought if something happened that was bad enough, my mom would have to choose me over him. She'd have to leave him. That was the only way out I could see. "So you—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "I made the accusation." She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I knew what to say. I'd watched enough TV. heard enough stories. I knew how to make it believable. I cried when I told my mom. I gave specific details, nothing too graphic, but enough. Enough to make it real. My hands had gone numb. I couldn't feel my fingers wrapped around my wine glass. The police came, the detectives, CPS. Everyone asked me questions, and I stuck to the story. I cried at the right moments. I looked traumatized. It wasn't even hard. I was scared. Genuinely scared. Because it had all gotten so much bigger than I thought it would. "The trial," I whispered. "I testified." Fresh tears poured down her face. I sat in that witness stand, and I looked at him. Tom was just sitting there, looking so confused and betrayed, and I told them what he supposedly did to me. I cried. Real tears because I was terrified and guilty, and in too deep to stop, she wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. The jury believed me. Of course they believed me. Who doesn't believe a crying 14-year-old girl? They found him guilty in less than 4 hours. I felt like I was going to throw up. 4 years, she said. They gave him 4 years. And I let it happen. I let him go to prison. I let my mom throw away everything that had his name on it. I went to therapy and talked about my supposed trauma with a counselor who thought she was helping me process a real experience. "Leah, I've been in therapy on and off ever since," she continued, like she couldn't stop now that she'd started. "For depression, anxiety. My therapist thinks it's because of what supposedly happened to me as a teenager. My boyfriend thinks the same thing. Everyone in my life thinks I'm a survivor of something terrible, and the truth is..." She looked at me for the first time since she'd started talking. "The truth is, I'm just a liar who destroyed an innocent man's life because I didn't want a curfew." The silence that followed felt like drowning. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally managed to ask. "Because I can't carry it anymore." Her voice broke. "The guilt is eating me alive. Every single day for 14 years, I've woken up and remembered what I did. And I thought if I just told someone, if I could just confess to someone I trust, maybe I could finally breathe again." She reached for my hand. I pulled away without thinking. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't hate me. I was 14. I was just a stupid kid who didn't understand what I was doing." "You testified at trial," I interrupted. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Flat. Cold. "The trial was months later. You had months to tell the truth." "I know." "You let him go to prison." "I know." "For 4 years." "I know." She was sobbing again. "Don't you think I know that? Don't you think I've thought about that every single day? I made a mistake, a horrible, unforgivable mistake, and I've paid for it in my own way. The depression, the guilt, it never stops." "Does he know?" I asked suddenly. "Does Tom know you lied?" She shook her head. "Have you tried to contact him? To apologize? To tell anyone who could actually do something about this?" "How can I?" she cried. "Do you know what would happen to me if people found out? I could be charged with perjury, false reporting. I could go to prison myself. My career would be over. My mom would never forgive me. Everyone would hate me." And right there, right in that moment, I saw something clearly that I'd been trying not to see. She wasn't confessing because she wanted to make it right. She was confessing because carrying the secret was uncomfortable for her. I stood up from the couch. My legs felt shaky, like I'd been sitting too long, but I needed distance between us. "Say something," Leah pleaded. "Please, just say something." I didn't know what to say. My brain was trying to reconcile 14 years of friendship with what I'd just learned, trying to match the Leah I knew, kind, caring, Leah who volunteered at animal shelters and never forgot a birthday, with the girl who put an innocent man in prison. "You were 14, I said slowly. "That's what you said. You were just a kid." She nodded eagerly, like I was finally understanding. "You were 14 when you made the accusation," I continued. "But you were still 14 when the trial happened. And you testified. And then you were 15 when you let him start serving his sentence. 16 when you went to therapy and talked about your... It's not that simple. You let your mom throw away photos of him. You let her vilify him to everyone she knew. You let his name get attached to terrible accusations. You let him get placed on a criminal registry. The full weight of it was hitting me now, cascading like dominoes. Do you understand what being on that registry means? My voice was rising. Where can he work? Where can he live? Can he go to parks? Be around children? What happens when he applies for jobs and they run a background check? I know. No, I don't think you do. I was shaking now. You took 4 years of his life. Actually, no. You took all of his life. Because that conviction follows him everywhere. Forever. And you did that because he gave you a curfew? It was more than that. It doesn't matter, I shouted, and Leah flinched. There is no reason that justifies what you did. None! I started pacing, my mind racing. Do you know what you did to people who actually go through real experiences like this? Do you understand what false accusations do to real victims who are trying to be believed? I thought about the statistics I'd read, about how false accusations are held up as reasons to doubt people who come forward, about how defense attorneys use cases like this to discredit actual survivors. You weaponized something that real people go through, I said. You took their real experiences and used them as a tool for your own convenience. I was depressed. Because of your guilt, I spun around. Not because of something that happened to you, because of something you did. And instead of doing the right thing, you're sitting in therapy sessions pretending to process trauma that never happened, letting a therapist try to help you with the wrong problem entirely. Leah was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 22 years of friendship don't disappear instantly. But a bigger part of me felt disgusted. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice dropping to something cold and quiet. Forgiveness? Absolution? What? I just needed someone to know, she whispered. I needed someone to know the truth. Well, now I know. And you know what? I wish I didn't. I walked to my door and opened it. You need to leave. Please, leave, Leah. She stood up slowly, gathering her purse and coat with shaking hands. She walked to the door, stopped next to me. We've been friends for 22 years, she said softly. That has to count for something. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in our entire friendship, I felt like I was seeing a stranger. You know what I keep thinking about? I said. I keep thinking about that day the detectives interviewed me. They asked if I'd ever seen anything, if Tom had ever made me uncomfortable. And I said no, but I felt so guilty. Like I'd somehow failed you as a friend. Like I should have noticed something. Should have protected you better. I shook my head. But there was nothing to notice. Because nothing happened. And I wasted years feeling guilty about failing to protect you from something that never existed. Leah's face crumpled. I also keep thinking about Tom, I continued. Do you know if he's alive? If he has a family? Did he lose his job because of this? His friends? The son? Did his family believe him, or did they think he was lying? She didn't answer. 22 years of friendship, I repeated her words. And you spent 14 of those years lying to me. Every time you talked about your supposed trauma, every time you mentioned therapy or your depression or why you couldn't be around certain situations, you were lying. So no, Leah, it doesn't count for anything. Because the friendship was built on a lie. I stepped back from the door. Goodbye. She walked out, and I closed the door behind her. I stood there for a long time, my back against the door, staring at the wine glasses still sitting on my coffee table. Her glass had a lipstick mark on the rim. That detail felt important somehow, though I couldn't say why. Eventually, I picked up my phone and blocked her number. Then I sat down and cried. Not for Leah. For Tom, whoever he was. Wherever he was. For the years he lost. For the life he could have had. And for myself, I guess. For the friendship I thought I had. That was 32 days ago. The next morning, Leah started texting. When her messages stopped going through, she started calling from different numbers. I didn't answer. Her boyfriend, Derek, reached out 3 days later. Hey, Leah said you guys had some kind of fight? She won't tell me what happened, but she's really upset. Can you two work this out? I didn't respond. Leah's sister, Madison, called a week after that. I let it go to voicemail. The message was 3 minutes long. I don't know what happened between you two, but Leah is devastated. She hasn't left her apartment in days. Whatever she did, can't you at least talk to her about it? You've been friends forever. Don't throw that away. But that's the thing, I'm not the one who threw it away. Our friend group has started to fracture. No one understands why I suddenly cut Leah out. She must have told them some version of events, probably that we had a fight and I overreacted. That she tried to apologize, but I won't listen. I've been uninvited from 2 group gatherings. People are taking sides, and without knowing the truth, they're mostly taking hers. Because Leah is the nice one, the one who shows up for people, and I'm the one who ghosted her best friend of 22 years without explanation. Maya, one of our mutual friends from high school, cornered me at Target last week. "What is going on with you?" she demanded. Leah is heartbroken. She says she doesn't even know what she did wrong. I almost told her right there, in the middle of the paper goods aisle with holiday music playing over the speakers. I almost said, "She made a false accusation and sent an innocent man to prison." But I didn't. Because here's what I've realized. I can't tell people what Leah did without becoming complicit in the cover-up if I don't also report it. And if I report it, I destroy her life in the same way she destroyed Tom's. And despite everything, despite the disgust and anger I feel, there's still some part of me that balks at that level of destruction. So I'm stuck. I can't defend myself without exposing her, and I can't expose her without... What? Without becoming someone who ruins lives too? I don't have an answer to that, honestly. I tell people I don't even really care what they think, that their opinions don't matter, that I know the truth and that's enough. But that's only partially true, because the reality is, I'm grieving. I'm grieving the loss of 22 years of friendship. I'm grieving the person I thought Leah was. I'm grieving every memory that now feels contaminated. All those times she talked about her supposed trauma, all the moments I comforted her, all the conversations where I praised her bravery, none of it was real. But even more than that, I'm grieving for Tom. I don't know where he is now. I tried Googling him, Tom Hendricks, convicted in 2011, but I can't find anything recent. There are records of his conviction, his placement on the criminal registry, but nothing about where he is now, if he rebuilt his life, if he even survived the aftermath. Sometimes I imagine him sitting in that prison cell, knowing he was innocent, unable to prove it, unable to make anyone believe him, because who believes a convicted person over a crying teenage girl? I imagine him getting out after 4 years and trying to find work, trying to explain to potential employers, trying to date someone and having to disclose his record, trying to exist in a world that will forever see him as something terrible for something he didn't do. And I wonder, does he know? Does he have any idea that the girl who put him there has spent the last 14 years living freely while he pays the price for her lie? I don't know what to do with any of this. Part of me thinks I should report what I know. Tell the police, tell a lawyer, tell someone who could actually help Tom if he's still fighting this. But Leah confessed to me in private. Is that even admissible? Would it help him, or would it just create more mess with no resolution? Part of me thinks I should tell everyone, our friend group, Leah's family, Derek. Let them know who they're really defending. But what does that accomplish beyond destroying her? And part of me, the part that's winning right now, just wants to stay silent and hope that somehow it's enough that I know, that I stopped being her friend, that I'm not contributing to the lie anymore. But it doesn't feel like enough, because somewhere out there is a man whose life was stolen, and I'm one of the only people who knows the truth, and I'm not doing anything about it. So I'm carrying this alone, this knowledge, this weight. And every time someone tells me I'm being cruel to Leah, every time someone defends her and calls me unreasonable, I want to scream. I want to tell them everything, but I don't, because I still don't know what the right thing to do is. I just know that I can't look at Leah anymore without seeing him. Tom, the invisible victim in all of this, the man whose name nobody speaks. She took 4 years of his life, but she also took all 22 years of our friendship because every single one of them was built on a foundation of this lie. And now I'm left sitting in my apartment on a Tuesday night, drinking wine alone, wondering if staying silent makes me complicit in what she did. I don't have an answer. I just know that a month ago I had a best friend, and now I don't. Sometimes I think about reaching out to Tom somehow, finding him, telling him the truth, giving him information that could maybe, possibly help overturn his conviction. But then I think, what if it's too late? What if knowing the truth now just reopens wounds that have finally started to scar over? What if the truth doesn't actually fix anything? These are the questions that keep me up at night, and I don't have answers to any of them. All I know is this. Leah destroyed an innocent man's life because she didn't want to follow house rules, and I ended a 22-year friendship because I couldn't live with knowing that. I still don't know if I did the right thing. I just know it was the only thing I could do. What we learn from this story is that sometimes loving someone means walking away when you discover they've done something you cannot reconcile with your conscience, even if it costs you everything you built together, because standing by your values in isolation is more honorable than compromising them for company. This is one of those stories that doesn't have a clean ending, because it's still happening. It's messy, complicated, and there are no